Women Catalyst presents Lightning Talks. All right, if this is your first time, oh, that wine like hit me like. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We actually launched Lightning Talks last month. Did you speak to this, Lindsay? At all?
No. Go
okay,
for
great.
it.
I was getting more wine and my phone fixed and all these other things while this event was happening. So
Is Mercury in retrograde?
Mercury's in retrograde or something. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time here, we actually just launched Lightning Talks last month. So Women Catalyst started about over a year ago, in January of 2015, and we started the organization to inspire more women to action. And we started with Catalyst Conversations, which is a one-on-one interview with guided networking and to really build a community and inspire people to move forward and achieve what their dreams were. Then from that, we had workshops emerge, co-working days. We're now in the 6th week of a Catalyst Collective, which is an 8-week coaching program. And Lightning Talks is really complementary to Catalyst Conversations because we're spotlighting one woman and talking to her in a conversation once a month, and we really also want to spotlight all the incredible members of the Women Catalyst community and give you a space and place to be seen and heard. So we're so happy that you're here tonight to be seen and be heard, to listen to folks to speak, and to be courageous and stand up here. So with that, folks who are talking, you've got about 3 minutes. We might do some signs if we see you going way over, but we'll just trust that you're all good,
Close enough.
that you're close enough.
Yeah.
And Amanda's like, I'm waiting, man. Like,
Oh
I'm
no,
ready
this is
to
just
go.
my resting.
This is my resting pose. All right, Amanda. Let's welcome Amanda to the stage. She's kicking us off.
So my dream would be to give this as a TED Talk where you're all super impressed that I'm just extemporaneously speaking, but I have a day job. So you should all just be really impressed that I actually typed this out on my computer over the weekend, right? So I signed up and I called my talk Do-It-Yourself Luck. And to me, do-it-yourself luck is this idea that luck isn't something that happens to someone, luck is something you create. So not waiting for opportunity, making sure that you see opportunity and you take that lucky break for yourself. And I'd say I'm a pretty lucky person. So for instance, when I was a little girl, I found a diamond ring on the beach. And as an adult, I won a prestigious scholarship and the opportunity to study abroad in the UK. And people could look at those stories and say, oh, wow, Amanda, you're so lucky. But, you know, what really happened was I had habits that helped me to do those things. And you might say, whoa, 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 a 7-year-old kid developing like lucky habits, but I'll get to that. So I was always picking stuff up off the ground. And eventually my mom told me that unless it's money or a diamond ring, you're not allowed to pick it up. Now, I promise this isn't some story about San Francisco and manifesting itself or whatever. It was just that I was always looking for something on the ground. One time I brought home a piece of concrete because I liked the rocks that were inside of it, and she got tired of it. So here we are on the beach, and I'm walking along, and I'm looking, and finally I see something. And I thought, that kind of looks like a bottle cap, but it doesn't look like a bottle cap. I wonder what it could be. So I thought, do I dare risk the wrath of my mother and pick up another piece of trash off the ground? Or should I pick it up and see what it is? And so that's my first point about luck. Luck is about being ready to take a risk. In this case, making my mom really angry at me. But the second part is qualifying yourself for the opportunity. So I had all this experience looking at junk on the ground. So I knew, like, oh, that's just a bottle cap, cool. Oh, but this over here kind of looks like a bottle cap. Don't know what it is. So that's what led me to know that that shape was unusual and it was worth a closer look. So when you're qualified, it allows people to offer you what other people might consider a lucky break. For instance, when I told everyone about my lucky break, that I won a scholarship for $24,000 and the chance to study at a prestigious university, they all thought, wow, Amanda, you're so lucky. But what they didn't know was, or what they hadn't seen, was that work of me working 2 jobs as I went through community college, or my frustration at being a mature student. I was 26 when I finally finished my bachelor's degree. I also was dealing with mental health issues and family issues and all this other stuff that ultimately made me into the person that I was, that when I walked into that room, I could tell my story effectively and win that scholarship, earn that scholarship for myself. So, thanks for the snaps. So the amazing part of that is, I did that work, but I still had to find that door to knock on. So through my job that I was working in at that point, I was working at a nonprofit. Another some nonprofit ladies in the room. I had an opportunity to talk to a local Rotarian and ask her for feedback about a project that we were considering doing. And as we spoke, I was kind of telling her a little bit about my background and the fact that I just gone back to college and that I was looking forward to finishing my BA in art history. And I knew that that art history BA wasn't going to get me very far without a master's degree. But I also didn't know how I was going to pay for a master's degree. So she said, oh, I'd be happy to sponsor you to apply for a Rotary Ambassadorial Scholarship. It's worth $24,000 and you can go study anywhere in the world as long as it's not the United States. So I said, yeah, please. And like I said, I went into that interview and I told my story and I had my, my way of talking about what I had done in my life and how it aligned with that mission. And that was what got me that scholarship. It wasn't a lucky break at all, was it? So I'm sure that if you think back to the last time something lucky happened to you, you'll recognize what I'm talking about, which is being prepared and then taking that risk. And I just hope you'll keep those 2 steps in mind as you start your next business, look for work, or meet a lady tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I remember an old parable that once said that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I don't know who said that. Anybody know? Seneca. Go figure. It's that guy.
Hi, I'm Shanti. I'm from Fremont, and this is my first time here. Today, I want to share some experience I'm really proud of. Amanda talked about luck, and my talk is similar dovetails with her. I started out as a software engineer. From there, I made a big change to UX designer, and I want to share some of my experience, how I did it. So this was 8 years ago. I was working for a big high-tech company. I was a software engineer. My job was to create performance benchmark for microprocessors, right? When I took this job, I was really excited, and it was in the peak of the internet boom, and everything looked perfect. And the first project was really interesting, but over a period of time, the initial enthusiasm eroded, and I felt like I was doing the same job over and over. And after 8 years, I really felt difficult to go to work, not motivated, my soul-crushing monotony. So, so what I decided, I was lucky to get a sabbatical after 7 years. So during my break, I really did a soul searching, what I want to do. And I did an intense Google search. And I came up with a list of things that I liked, right? What do I want in a job to be fulfilling, and the skills that I already learned I can use. So some of the things I wanted to be creative, I wanted to work with people. And then I did my search, and UX designer came on the top. So, but from engineer to UX designer, how do I make the leap? So as I was searching, one of the options was going back to school. So I decided to take an open university class, and I jumped into San Jose State. And then I also stepped back to step forward. I took an internship, leaving a full-time job at half the pay. And I went there, took the job, took the internship, and also completed my degree. Once I finished, I had a lot of opportunity lined up for a UX designer. And from then on, I never looked back. I really enjoy working with people. The creativity and ability to impact the product and the people. So I really enjoy it, and my boss is here today. Yeah. So next time somebody say that you cannot make a shift, don't believe them. Just do it for yourself. Follow your passion. That's all I want to say today.
Thank you so much, Santi, for sharing. I think that a lot of times when we're trying to create a new path, it means taking a few steps back, but you're also starting a bit farther ahead than from the very beginning, right? And it's incredible. I'm so glad your boss is here to support you, and it's so wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for coming. Women bring their coworkers. Or what was I? Anyway, Jennifer.
Hi everyone. Thank you. So this is Uncertain Moment up here, and my talk is actually Thriving in Uncertainty. So my name is Jen, and I'm a professional at uncertainty, or at least I thought I was. So I've lived my life with a lot of uncertainty. I'll never forget March 8th, 2010. My mom hadn't been feeling well. She was feeling really weak, could barely walk a city block. And I was like, okay, like I need to take her to the hospital. And so I'm getting in my car and I'm ready to take my mom to the hospital, and my boss calls. And she's like, in this really ominous voice, Jen, you should really come in today. And I'm like, OS. So I drive to the office, and 40% of my company was laid off, and I was impacted. So I packed my things in a box, well, maybe 2 boxes because I'm a hoarder, and drove home and rushed home and took my mom to the ER. So I took my mom to the ER, and the doctors did some blood tests and some other tests, and we had no idea what was going on. It was a very uncertain time point. She ended up staying in the hospital that night, and the next day we found out that she had gastric malt lymphoma, which is a blood cancer. So naturally, I would have called my dad, because that's who I would have leaned to, but he was also in the hospital. So that previous Thanksgiving of 2009, my dad had gone to the hospital for lung disease. So effectively that year, I became literally the head of my household. And I'm happy to say that since that year, my mom has survived, and she is with us today, and she's kicking ass. But unfortunately, my dad didn't make it, and we lost him in August of that year. So I guess you could say that since that time point, I've become a master of negative uncertainty. So whenever bad things happen, I'm just like, whatevs, I just let it roll off my back, I'm used to it, negative uncertainty, whatever. But you know what? I'm trying to get used to positive uncertainty right now. So what does that look like? That looks like success. I started my own consultancy last year, and I've been really successful. I've launched a podcast, and also I'm in a really healthy and happy relationship. And that freaking scares me, like all this good stuff. I'm just not used to it. I have a fear of success. So I decided to take a workshop at Esalen Institute called Thriving in Uncertainty. It just called to me, and I was like, it was the best thing that happened. So basically, while we were there, after some, meditation, listen to the waves crashing and the naked people laughing in the background at the baths or whatever of Esalen, the teacher taught us something really important. And she said, when you're trying to deal with an uncertain moment, just ask yourself simply, what is this moment asking of me? And that made it so much more manageable. Like, I didn't have to worry about the future. I didn't have to worry about the past. I just needed to worry about the present. And so I'm learning now to embrace uncertainty and to really be free with limitless possibility and the success of being an entrepreneur, and really asking myself whenever I get stressed or worried, what is this moment really asking of me? And so I encourage all of you guys out here, entrepreneurs, women go-getters, male go-getters in the back of the room. I really encourage you guys, when you're in that moment, whether it's good times or bad times and you're like, oh, I have no idea what's going to happen, just take a moment and reflect, what is this moment asking of me? And it is going to be the way that you are present in your life and the way that you can really give yourself the gift of really embracing uncertainty and thriving in this beautiful life that we have. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. There are quite a lot of lessons we can learn from your story, and I think navigating the chaos and understanding that the ups and downs come and go, but ultimately you can do it. All right, next up, Lee. Woohoo!
Journalist Katie McGarrow wrote an article for Reuters called "Kenyan Schoolboy Saves Girl from Rape After Learning No Means No." The story tells about a schoolboy watching as a man is dragging a little girl down to a Nairobi riverbank. He's trying to remove her diapers, and the boy assumes rightly that this man is going to rape this little girl. But this boy has been trained to defend girls against sexual assault. So what he does is he goes up the road and he calls out to these other young men, and he asks them to come down and confront this man and rescue this child. The story goes on to say that the boy's trainer, Colin Zamandi, said it could have been fatal. If this man would have assaulted this kid, he would have thrown her inside the river. I know this area where this story took place, and I know this river, and it's not unusual for us to find bodies in the water down there. This is an extreme risk environment. This is where I work, and anything can happen. Take the story of Mary Anyango, a 16-year-old former student of ours, abducted by a gang of men, taken to a shack, this is the slums of Nairobi, and told to lie down. Mary says that she knew, and she's 16, she says she knew that at least one of these men had to have AIDS. So she thought, why should I submit and die a slow, agonizing death? Why don't I just get it over with right now? So she says, I'd rather die than let you rape me. So the guy with the machete says, fine. He takes the machete and he cuts her head. And Mary says, the next thing I knew, I wasn't dead. I thought, this is the time to use those skills that they taught me in that class. So she gets into her stance and she kicks the guy in front of her in the groin, and he falls down moaning. She elbows the guy that's holding her from behind, and he falls down and doubles over, and she just runs. And she said that these guys were so shocked at what she had done, no one was moving while these two guys were on the ground moaning. These are my work stories. I teach the men and women who go into the schools and teach these kids these skills. For the past 7 years, I've been refining and developing the content that these kids are putting into their action in their daily lives. We teach a system called Empower, and that's a 12-hour class. I used to be thinking, wow, that boy is totally special that he did that. Or wow, that girl is amazing that she did that. But now I know that there are millions of kids out there just like that, that would do the same thing if they learned two things. The first one is permission. Permission to do what you already want to do. Get your uncle's hand off your thigh. You already want to do it. The second thing is skills. The skills to do that effectively. Another amazing thing about this whole thing is that it's so inexpensive, because all that power is already out there. It's in the girl, right? It's in the boy. It's already there. This massive latent power to stop what is potentially damaging as starvation, it already exists in that population. Illiteracy, disease, malnutrition have a huge detrimental effect on the population, but sexual violence actually has just as big an impact, but can be solved at a fraction of the cost. So the next time you hear about rampant sexual assault on college campuses or in India or Africa, remember that there is a solution, and it's scientifically proven. We have published research, many papers. And it's a 12-hour class that helps girls and boys join forces to create community-wide generational change. That's my time. Thank you so much.
And if you guys want to learn more, her website's nomeansnoworldwide.com? .org. Thank you for sharing. All right, you're up.
Thank you.
Jill?
I'm so moved by that, Lee, that I'm a little weepy. And so I'll just riff on what you said, which is just as sexual assault can take away our life force and our power and leave us feeling so depleted, so can really being in our juice and having the safety and the support and the information to have a juicy and empowered sex life actually spills over into every other aspect of our life besides just feeling really good. So I just want to see a show of hands, if you feel comfortable. How many of you have exactly the sex life that you want right now? Woo! And how many of you can remember a time when you did have exactly the sex life? How many of you would like to have exactly the sex life that you want right now? I mean, not right this second. awesome, right? And so what happens when we have that life energy flowing through us? What happens in our lives? Anybody?
Everything gets more colorful.
More colorful, right? She comes in colors everywhere. What else? What else happens for us when that life energy is moving through us? What happens?
Creative.
Creative, yes. And one more thing that happens.
We're more in touch with our bodies.
We're more in touch with our bodies. Yes, thank you. So I am the author of over 50 works to do with sexuality and gender and relationships that are more in my past than present, which I've been developing Wisdom of the Body, which is an alternative therapy that I kind of got tired of sitting down and talking to someone. I needed to bring the body more into it. And I'm also the founder of Juice, Jews United in Celebrating the Erotic. And I have gotten my friends laid, I've gotten them shacked up, I've even gotten a few of them married, just as a labor of love, which has earned me the affectionate moniker Sacred Yenta Pimp. And I've manifested a lot of my own desired scenarios over the years, but it was not always like this. When I was in college, I remember being about 17 years old, and I had a boyfriend, and I was having orgasmic sex for the first time in my life, and it was so awesome. But one day I went to his house, and the sex kind of happened without the usual connection and preliminaries, and I felt kind of bad. And I went home, and I came back to him, and I said, I felt used. And he said, there is no way that I could possibly use you. And I did not have the communication skills at the time that I do now to be able to say, something feels off to me. Here's what I would like to happen. Here's what I'd like to happen the next time. So I just framed it that way, and we broke up soon afterwards. So time moves forward, and I'm a bisexual activist. Any other bisexual people here who don't mind saying so? Woo, and they're all on that side of the room. How interesting. Almost. And you know, so when you're an activist, you go to a lot of conferences. And the conferences, can I take?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's just a
So
little-
I was kind of a babe in the woods about the conference that happened after the conference. And it wasn't until I met someone who I dubbed my mentor in brazen hussiness, that I got to really explore and find out about what it was like to create and manifest sexual scenarios. So that mentor in brazen hussiness, by the way, is now a well-known public figure who shall remain nameless. But the point is that she was able to manifest sexual scenarios, and that carried over into her huge and scintillating career as a public servant. So, and this is why I'm so passionate about working with conscious women in business to help them navigate what is next on their sexual frontier. Your sexual frontier might be, I want to try this thing with my partner that we haven't tried, or I've never dated a woman, what are you supposed to do? Who calls who? Or I just got out of being in a marriage and I haven't the foggiest idea of how to date. So whatever your sexual frontier is, that's where I want to help you surface your exquisite intuition that already exists, give you the information that you need about how to have those kinds of conversations, and get the support of a group of really awesome women. So what I'm going to do, if this speaks to you at all, is send around this thing, if you don't mind just circulating that. And on Friday, I'm going to send out an email, and you can click the link and set up a free 45-minute consultation with me. We can talk about what your sexual frontier is, anything you want. You can pick my brain, just tell me how your weekend's going, whatever. And we can also talk about the other work that I do. And I'll send you my article called From Heartbreak to Juice, which is about my last 3 months and how I came into reclaiming my sexuality. So, thank you.
Yes, please make sure that that sign-up sheet gets over to the
Hi everyone. I'm not here to pitch you a product or a service. I'm here to pitch you into listening something that's going to change your life. When I was a little girl, I used to love being on the playground, except I wasn't on the swings, I wasn't on the slides, I was chatting it up with kids' parents. And I used to ask them random questions. What are you making for dinner today? Where are you going on vacation? What are your plans on the weekend? And I remember a parent coming up to me and saying, God, you need to be a reporter. You ask too many questions. I came home And my parents had other plans for me. Like all South Asian parents, my parents wanted me to go to medical school. That didn't happen. I decided to pursue a degree in international relations and Japanese, and I found myself at a tech company running a customer support organization. I've always had this gift where people like to share their deepest, darkest secrets with me. I'll be at the checkout line at Safeway, and a woman is sharing her whole life story about how she's struggling with putting food on the table. Or that random conversation with a coworker where they had a lapse of judgment and ended up sleeping with someone at work. And I noticed that people love sharing stories with me. I was driving to the mall making an errand, and that story of when I was a little girl and how that parent had said to me, "You need to be a reporter, you ask too many questions," flashed back. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if I can interview women and share their stories and how they got to success? And so I decided that I wanted to start a podcast series called Confessions of Successful Asian Women, where I get to interview women from different Asian backgrounds who are not only doctors and have them share their stories. Like the example of the women that I interviewed, Myra Nawabi, who was an Afghan refugee, had to flee Afghanistan, and while she was escaping, there was a gun to her head to run. Or other incredible women who've had to deal with so many failures and barriers to get to where they are today. And this is my opportunity to build a community where women can connect, share, and inspire one another so that you can get confessions for success. Please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, and you can find me at my website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alita. Press one before our break, our intermission. All right, how do we pronounce your name?
Hadar.
Hadar.
Cohen, yeah.
Hadar Cohen. Thanks, Hadar. What we're doing.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Hadar, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I studied electrical engineering in Cooper Union in New York City, and I really loved my school and I loved my studies. But I really felt uncomfortable there. Most of my faculty were men, and most of my peers were men. Being in this male-dominated culture really impacted me and influenced me. Additionally, I was also feeling really disconnected from the natural world. I was constantly in a building in dark and cold New York City, and I just felt like I wanted to get out. So I thought, why not move to Berkeley to move on a farm? So I did, and it was awesome. I had an amazing time working on a farm in Berkeley for 3 months, and I learned a lot about ecosystems and how they function. After those 3 months were up, I surprised myself by wanting to actually go back to the engineering world. But I was really scared because I remembered how uncomfortable I felt in that culture. I remembered that I actually learned another skill in engineering school, and that was talking to men who were mostly surrounded in a male-dominated culture about feminism, and really talking to them about my experience and why feminism is still so relevant and necessary in our world. I realized that men were not purposely trying to make me feel uncomfortable. They just didn't know that they were. Once I really articulated my needs and my feelings in a way that felt understandable to them, they were so happy to change. So this understanding inspired me to launch my own company, which is called Pivot to Bloom. At Pivot to Bloom, we work with tech companies to facilitate workshops around gender. And we use the perspective of an urban farm. The urban farm can teach us a lot about diversity. Diversity is essential for a farm to survive and thrive. It also teaches us a lot about models of growth. If you put a plant in the shade, it will die. But it's not the plant's fault that it dies. It's just that the conditions for success weren't met. often in our culture, we tend to judge plants for dying rather than looking at what conditions can we change in order to make the plant grow. At Pivot to Bloom, we try to ask those questions and turn to nature as a source of wisdom and learn about models of growth through nature. Right now, I'm in initial process of launching it and working and doing some pilot workshops, and I'm also launching a little fundraiser. So if you're interested in contributing, I would love your support, and if you want to talk more about it, come talk to me. It's called Pivot to Bloom, and you can see it at pivottobloom.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adar. I also noticed that where I put my plants in my house, if they are not in the right light, they will try and get to that light, right? So it's in their nature to try and find the light, and it's about creating the conditions to bring that out.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Megan, and I'm a future storyteller. You might be asking yourself right now, what the hell is a future storyteller? And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So every day in my coaching business, I work with these brilliant, multi-passionate, ambitious women and a couple men who are full of these amazing dreams, these beautiful ideas, these things that they want to put into action. Dreams like landing a promotion, striking out on their own and starting their own thing, leaving their job to travel the world, and so many more. Some that are almost too sacred for them to utter to their friends and family. Those really deep, dark desires that they're just like, can't tell anyone because it's not like me. And every day, I help them work through the blockers in their lives so they can achieve these dreams. And one thing I've noticed in my conversations with these women is that when we dream big and when we assign feelings and details to our dreams, these one day I will ... moments, they become more real. Instead of a thing that you say that people go, ooh, and ah, ooh, that's interesting over, but you never take steps towards, because that's a someday thing. It's not a today thing. And all of us have a ton of today things, don't we? A ton of today things. Instead of that, it becomes something that you can feel, something that you can envision, and part of that becomes a part of you. So this is where the Future Stories Project comes in. I believe in telling our story, in owning our story, and taking power from it. And I believe even more firmly that creating stories of events that have not yet happened in your life, of things that we truly want, but have not made time for, these stories make it more real. When we make it real, we make it reality. So in the Future Stories Project, you get to tell a story from your future, and then I guide you through it. So everyone pretend that you're 75. Take a moment, get yourself in there. And you're looking back on your life, and wow, it's been one hell of a ride, hasn't it? All those amazing things that you've done, seen, felt. What story from your rich and full life do you want to tell? For example, if you've always wanted to strike out on your own and build a successful business, your future story could be about the day you launched your #1 product and the work that went into it. Or if you've always dreamed of taking time off and traveling the world, your future story could be about the day that you missed your train and ended up meeting someone who became the love of your life. So the kicker is that this story hasn't happened to your present day self. Something in the future, as if you're 75 looking back. So when you're telling these stories, you're more likely to take the steps that are needed to make this happen, because you're making it real. You're assigning it details, and you're making it reality. So the Future Stories Project is now live. I am selecting people to work with in developing their own future story that will be published on my website. You can find me at meganelgart.com. And if you're interested in participating, please come see me after the talks. Thank you very much.
Future Stories, I like it. Katie Tilson, you're up. Oh,
Did
it's
not
me.
see my name on there.
It's okay, I just did
snuck
too.
up. Hi, Leah.
Leo's here for you.
Cool, thanks. Okay. So, have you ever had one of those conversations that seem really insignificant, and then a few years go by and you're like, why do I remember that conversation like it was nothing? So about 3 years ago, that happened to me. I was working at my nonprofit, and I just was casually meeting someone who was new to the team, and we were having the basics of the conversation of like just getting to know each other, and it came up about our ages, and I was like, maybe 27 and a half, that will be relevant, not the fact that I usually say I'm 30 and a half or whatever, like a child. But so she goes, oh, that's awesome. 28 is like right when things kind of changed for me. I met my now husband, I started a new career, I was just figuring things out. I was like, okay, cool. Went on with the meeting. Then about 5 or so months later, maybe a little less, I realized I kind of was a little over the nonprofit world and wanted to make the jump into the tech world and didn't know how to do that, and so I found a career accelerator program. So I quit my job, took a leap of faith, did this program that really allowed me to translate my skills into an actual job and really networked like it was my job. And when I would go on these networking events and have coffee dates and then drinks and then coffee dates, and my mind was running a million times because I was just so caffeinated and I'm a fast talker, people would ask me what I wanted to do, and I would just say, and make up whatever came to my mind and put a happy face on and a big smile, because like I just didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. But I had to say something, so I faked it till I made it. And then after kind of finishing this program, I found a contract to hire job. I was like, great, I did everything I was supposed to do. I worked hard and I found a job. All was great. And then until the first week, the Friday of my first week, I was like, oh my God, I hate it here. Everything about it, I just hate it. And then a few weeks later, they were like, great, we love you and we want to offer you a full-time job. And instead of feeling so enthused, I went home and I cried. And I was like, that's weird. I probably shouldn't be crying when I'm offered a job. And I knew that I didn't quit my job to go to a new, exciting opportunity just to be unhappy in a job. I just knew that didn't feel right. And so I was like, this can't be. I'm going to probably look for a new job. But then my family was like, well, you have a job offered and you don't have a job, and that phrase about a bird in the hand and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do me, because my motto is you do you. And I'm going to figure it out. So I went on, so I said, thanks but no thanks to my job and to my family. And I ended up finishing the contract job and finding a new job. Meanwhile, I'm living in New York this time, and then, so I got this new job, and about 5 months into my new job, they're like, oh, we think you'd be really great moving to San Francisco and really expanding our West Coast team. I'm like, holy shit, I've only been here for 5 months, like, what's going on? But in all this time, I was like, this is pretty cool, because I've always tinkered with the idea of moving out of New York, because if there's any former New Yorkers, you tinker with that idea a lot after you see like 5 or 10 rats in the subway. So I thought about it, had a quick 48 hours to decide, and as much as I really actually found my life and my new home in Brooklyn and was excited, I was like, if not now, when? And I was given the advice that you'd rather leave a city on a high than when you're like miserable and ready to go. So picked up, moved cross country, left my family, left all the comforts, moved to this new city that I was pretty much convinced was actually real life Silicon Valley, the TV show. Not pleasantly surprised. And started a whole new life. And it was filled with ups and downs. New friends, old friends, figuring out how to find a new life. Did I really want this new life? Did I want to move back? Did I want to keep that door open? And I'm happy to say that a year and a half later, I'm really happy. And I have no idea if it's the maturity, if it's sticking to my motto of you do you, if it's figuring out what's next, or what. But all of a sudden, I was just having this conversation recently with a friend, and I was explaining to her that I'm okay with the comfort of being discomfortable and not knowing where life will take me next, where love will go, where career will go. And she's like, you can tell you're just beaming it, Katie, and that's so awesome. But what's even more awesome, and she's like, you just got out of your Saturn return, congrats. And I'm like, wait a second. That conversation I had a few years ago, that's basically it. And like, I'm not that big in astrology, but if I read my horoscope, I'm like, oh my God, that's so me, I get excited. Don't we all? So I was like, wow, that's it. And I'm a big fan of change. I've done talks about it, I write about it, and I just wanted to share, like, whether or not you're going through a Saturn return, or you went through it, or if it's any kind of change, embrace it, live it, love it, because you're going to be so much better on the other side because you went through it. And if you just let life happen, life will happen and it will be great. And why I'm holding this prop and trying to get it in it is when in doubt, just eat a cookie because I love cookies.
Well, they say the only thing constant in life is change. So being adaptable to it is definitely a good thing. And also just a shout out to Katie. Actually, she's one of our Women Catalyst leaders. She organizes and leads events in New York. So we're in New York as well as Los Angeles, and we're going to be doing pop-ups in Seattle and Denver in the coming month.
And we have an event in New York next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Share to your network. Share it with your
Yes.
friends.
If you got any New Yorkers that you think they'd be digging the Women Catalyst vibe, let them know. We're making our way there next week. All right, Kate. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm tired of hating porn as much as I love it. It seems that every time I watch it, I get to the point where I'm done watching it and then I shut my computer and I just want it far away from me. And then it always comes back to bite me when I'm in a coffee shop later and I open my computer and the video keeps playing and I'm just like feverishly trying to turn the volume down. So the problem with porn for me is twofold. I love sex, but even more than I love having it, I really love talking about it. There's something really beautiful in the dialogue between body and mind when two people are together. But that's not in porn because to us these people are strangers. So follow me here for a moment and close your eyes. Think of your favorite romantic comedy and then picture the couple. You basically know them, you're always rooting for them, and it's finally that moment. They're going to have sex. They make out, it's super hot, and yep, it's gonna happen. But then wait. Just as they start going at it, the scene fades to black with some romancy ambient music. Open your eyes and join me again. It's kind of a bummer, right? But what if you got to see the whole thing? What if you got to see the giggles and the dress that has one too many buttons and the normal underpants that they're wearing, and then you get to see the sex, which is playful and messy and in times even a little bit awkward to navigate. Well, I did that 2 weeks ago. My videographer friend Ellie, who's here tonight, and my partner Dave, and I decided to shoot porn. So we showed up at Ellie's house. Oh, actually, it should be noted that I asked Dave to shoot with me on our third date over Exit a Diner. He said yes. And so we showed up at Ellie's house at 11 a.m. with her favorite, rosé in hand, and we just began. So Dave and I start making out and then just kept going. And we only stopped 3 times during the 2 hours that we shot. So the first time when I was on my back and Ellie let me know that my face and my neck were getting enmeshed into my body as I was looking down at Dave eating me out. And the other time was when I was on my back and Dave was inside me and then Ellie's foot bumped my shoulder. And then I look up and I see her smiling at me from behind the camera. And there was a third time. So the third time was when, so Dave and I really love shibari, which is the art of Japanese rope bondage. And so sometimes we incorporate this in sex. And in this particular moment, he had just finished tying my ankle to my thigh, so think like a flamingo, but I'm laying down. And I realized I really had to pee. And so Dave scoops me up and walks me to the bathroom and places me on the toilet. And then all the while, Ellie's filming this whole thing. And then Dave and Ellie stand in the doorway and just hang out and watch me pee. And it was in that moment that I realized why people join nudist colonies. Because there's something really awesome about naked bodies. And everything becomes wonderfully less awkward when you are naked and your lopsided boobs are just like out and about. And so we recently finished the video and I was really nervous to watch it. And I found something really amazing in that I thought I looked really beautiful on camera. And I also found a lot of beauty in my partner Dave that I hadn't noticed before. It was silly and sweet and actually sexy. So there was something, to me there's something about sex that transcends its surroundings and we managed to capture that. So that's what we're up to. We are bringing consensual and body positive porn that captures the enigmatic moments that happen between people, just as they are. And so if you're interested in joining our movement to support porn that makes love and talk about naked bodies on camera, feel free to come chat with any of us afterwards. Thank you. Woo! Yeah, this camera's a little less intrusive.
That's awesome, and I can't wait to learn more. And also, Kate's a part of our Catalyst Collective and has been sort of sharing her journey with the community as she's been going on it. And it's been really incredible to watch. All right, Sarah Soul.
I knew I'd follow sexy time. I just knew it. My name is Sarah Soul, and I'm a therapist. And Soul is actually my real last name. It's not a woo-woo therapist name. But that's okay, too. Those are okay. But I work with women, and I work around problematic eating. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about chronic dieting. And chronic dieting is really a destructive act we women and some men commit against our bodies. And it is one that I committed against my own body for nearly 25 years. It's so destructive because it creates a cycle of weight loss and then gain and then loss and then gain. And initially you lose weight because there's just fewer calories on a diet. And then you gain the weight because your body thinks it's going into starvation mode. So this starts a metabolic and psychic nightmare, really, for women. And it's one that I lived with for decades. And it started when I was a little girl. I was told to weigh my food, to count calories, to count Weight Watcher points. And, you know, I was really praised when I lost weight, and I was rebuffed when my body revolted and I gained the weight back after being on 18 Weight Watchers points a day, which was starvation for me. And I really lived in an eating disorder hell for many years. And you know, as I grew older, my body did magnificent things. It birthed a baby girl, and I could ski double black diamonds. And I did all these wonderful things with my body, but I still continued to torture her with the latest, what was for me a fad. So I would try paleo, and then I'd not eat wheat, and then I would go vegan, and then I would try the latest fast or cleanse and start it all over again. Eventually, my metabolism just slowed, and I started gaining weight no matter what I ate. So I really understood that I had to stop dieting, and I did. And stopping dieting is the hardest thing I ever did. And I've done a lot of hard things, believe me. It was the hardest thing because every day I see and hear that siren call of get the perfect beach body in just 8 weeks. And it's from every magazine, at every checkout stand, every Facebook ad, every Pinterest ad, is convincing me that I am going to be happier if I follow somebody else's prescribed eating plan instead of listening to my own body. So rejecting diet culture is really a radical, rebellious, feminist act in my mind. And it's really giving the multi-billion, not million, multi-billion-dollar industry the middle finger. Because that industry depends on women and men, but mostly women. It depends on us hating ourselves enough to buy into their lies year after year, our whole lives spending thousands and thousands of dollars on their idea of what a woman should be, better and smaller. So as a feminist and as a psychotherapist, I knew there had to be a better way. And so I live by 4 rules loosely. Those rules are I eat mindfully and I eat slowly. I move my body however I want to, whenever I want to with exercise. I eat whatever I want and I stop when I'm full. And when I look in the mirror, I try to love what I see. And all day long, this is what I teach women to do in my practice, and it's really my calling. And I really believe that love can topple this insidious industry, and I believe it starts with each and every woman that walks through my office door. So thank you so much for listening.
So we haven't really discussed how we're going to close. But it's been one of those days, retrograde, phone crashed and crumbled and all the things. But I think it's been a really incredible evening. Do you guys agree? Yeah. And it was so interesting because we actually don't ask for people's, I mean, we sometimes ask for the title of your presentation, but we don't ask for a lot of details in terms of what women are going to present. And there was just an incredible thread of knowing oneself and, you know, reaching for, you know, what you believe in. Body, mind, consent, awareness, and I thought there was a really beautiful flow tonight of different speakers, and thank you all for being here and for sharing your stories. And if you didn't get a chance to share your story this evening, we would love to have you share your story at the next Lightning Talk. This is, again, a safe place and a place where we really want you to be seen and be heard and cultivate your powerful voices and your stories that really mean so much to us and to the people who are going to hear it.